Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is George Herrera with the Queens Home Team at Keller Williams Realty. In today's video, I'm covering the contract to closing phase of a real estate transaction here in Queens specifically. So once you go into contract, until you get to the closing table, what happens during that process? That's what I'm covering here, just to give you a little primer and so you know what to expect once you go into contract. So first things first. Contract, the way it works, seller's attorney here in Queens, seller's attorney will draft the contract, send it to the buyer's attorney. Usually the buyer and seller attorney go back and forth for a week or 2 weeks, sometimes even 3 weeks with co-ops until everyone's happy with the contract. Once the contract is finalized, the buyer's attorney calls the buyers in to sign the contract and cut a check for the initial escrow deposit. That half-signed contract with the escrow deposit is then sent to the seller's attorney, and then the seller's attorney calls the sellers in to sign, and then it's fully executed. Once that contract is fully executed, that's where you're now in contract, and now the buyer can start their mortgage application. So that's the first thing that happens once you're in contract. The mortgage application is started. Now, this contract to close phase, what I'm covering is for a transaction with a buyer who's taking a mortgage. Okay, so the first thing that happens, mortgage application now gets started, the formal application, and the buyer starts submitting documents. Bank is requesting a bunch of items. They actually start this process, and then after the application is started, usually 2 or 3 weeks after is where you'll have the appraisal, which is ordered. So the appraisal is ordered, and then the bank sends an independent appraiser to the property to go appraise the property and justify the price that it's selling at. Usually it'll come in at the price where the contract price is, but on occasion the appraisal can come in low, and that can cause issues. So appraisal is ordered. That's one of the first hurdles to get over, is the appraisal, because if it appraises, the deal keeps moving forward. If the appraisal comes in low, then you can run into a little speed bump there where there may be renegotiating. You have to figure things out there. But appraisal's order, that's number 2. Number 3 is that after the appraisal's order, the application is still getting processed. It gets sent to underwriting at the bank. And then what they usually will issue a conditional commitment. So the commitment letter is what you're waiting for, which is the commitment letter is when the bank issues a commitment to the buyer, and that's their commitment to lend. So it's pretty much when the loan is approved is when they get a commitment letter from the bank. But there's also something called a conditional commitment, and usually that's what you get. So they'll get a commitment letter first, and then that commitment says this is your commitment letter, but it has all these conditions that need to be met. So it's actually not a full commitment letter yet. So that's where the process still takes time. The bank will be asking for a lot of additional items and conditions that need to be met before they give a full commitment. So conditional commitment will be issued. That's number 3. Step 4 is where you have those conditions that the buyer is working on. The buyer has to clear all these conditions in order to get a full commitment. And just so you know, here in Queens, most contracts will state, let's say a buyer is taking a mortgage, the contract will have an on or about closing date, probably of 60 days. And usually the commitment date is 45 days. So from the date you go into contract, the attorneys will have in there that a commitment must be issued by 45 days. So within 45 days, a commitment should be issued. So that's usually the timeline that you're looking at. If a commitment isn't issued by the 45 days, then the buyer has to request an extension, or the buyer's attorney has to request an extension from the seller's attorney. So number 4, conditions are cleared. That can take time on the buyer's side. Number 5, title is ordered. Now, I have this as step 5 because many attorneys here in Queens will not order title until the commitment is actually issued. And what happens here is that when they do that, if title issues do come up, it can cause a delay. So we always suggest, if you're buying a property, to have your attorney, if you're the buyer, tell your attorney to order title as soon as you go into contract. Because if any issues come up with title, they always have to be addressed. Issues have to be addressed. So if you order title early in the process, then you can already start tackling these items, whether it's seller or buyer. Any title issues, they can start to be addressed beforehand. Now, if you wait, commitment is issued. That means the bank has committed to loan to give the buyer the mortgage. Now title is ordered. Issues come up that can delay the actual clear to close, to be cleared to close. So that's where, you know, usually here in Queens, title will be ordered after commitment is issued. But if you can order it early on, as soon as you go into contract, that will help you streamline the process in case there are any title issues. So number 6 is title issues are cleared. We're in Queens. A lot of these houses are very old. So I think I heard a title rep say once that 1 out of 4 deals have title issues. So they're actually quite common. Once title is ordered, for one reason or another, there will be something that comes up in title that needs to be addressed. So don't be surprised if there are title issues once title is ordered, and that's why it helps to have it ordered early if possible. So number 7, loan cleared to close. So once commitment conditions are met, full commitment is issued, title is ordered, any title issues that came up all got addressed, everything got resolved. Now you get the actual clear to close. So the bank says this file is cleared to close. We can move forward with closing, and then the last step is pretty much scheduling the closing. Now, something important to know here is that once the file is cleared to close, it's not as easy as just we can close tomorrow. There's a lot of parties involved. So you'll have the seller's attorney, buyer's attorney, bank attorney, the buyer, the seller, the real estate agents. It's a whole bunch of people that are involved in the transaction. So actually scheduling a closing, sometimes it can take a week, 2 weeks, maybe even up to 3 weeks just to get the closing date put on the books because of everyone's schedule and because everyone has to be there. So that's something else to keep in mind, but that is the last step. Once the commitment is issued, the full commitment, title issues are cleared, then you get to clear to close, and then you schedule the closing. So hopefully that helps just give you a little insight into what the steps are that you can expect, whether you're selling or buying. If the buyer is taking a mortgage, these are the steps you can expect to encounter. And on average, we always tell people, once you go into contract, if there's a mortgage process involved, you can expect to close between 60 and 90 days. Most sales here, they will close between 60 and 90 days. And it's not uncommon that they actually get pushed further for one reason or another, whether it's the bank or whether it's condition issues, underwriting issues, or whether there's title issues. So for one reason or another, it can get delayed. But as a rule of thumb, 2 to 3 months and you should be closing. All right, so hopefully that helps you. If you have any questions related to the contract to closing phase, or if you have any topics that you'd like us to cover on the channel, please feel free to drop them in the comments below, or you can send us an email to info@queenshometeam.com. Thanks as always for tuning in, y'all. Stay tuned for the next episode. Take care and have a great day.